Welcome back to some more Gravity Circuit. I know you're trying your best, Pat, but it's just not the same without Colonel. Anyway, last time on Gravity Circuit, we defeated only one Rebel Circuit, but that was the final one. The Rebel Circuit in question was Hash, the Cipher Circuit. After that, we did a bunch of miscellaneous stuff, most notably, data chip collection. And thanks to our little checklist, we now know that there is only one missable data chip left in the game, and we will be getting it at the end of this episode. Besides that, however, seeing as we have nothing left to do at the HQ at the time being, we're not going to be wasting any time, and we're going to be going straight to the Ark. My only recommendation going into these next two stages is to have your favorite upgrades and burst techniques equipped. Besides that, you might want to grab some popcorn or something, because this episode's gonna be a bit longer than usual. These are the coordinates the Colonel used when he disappeared near the Ark. From what we can tell from here, the area is swarming with virus army soldiers. With the interference they are causing, I'm afraid we can't transfer you there directly.
It's fine. I'll fight my way through.
Yes, sir, Master Kai. Just be careful out there, okay? Transfer to this location? Roger. Prepare for transfer! Now, as we take a moment to admire this very clear reference to Sigma Stage 1 from Mega Man X1, this stage's achievement is to beat its boss without getting hit by any of their burst techniques. So first things first, behold, current Ark. I went ahead and did exactly what I said I was going to do in the last episode and re-recorded this game's finale. So now you're going to see me using some new burst skills such as current Ark, clone array, just all the ones that I've been speaking highly of up until this point. Now then, Ark Stage 1 is split into two portions. There's outside and then inside the Ark itself. For the outside portion, this stage, again, like I kind of alluded to earlier, gives off some real strong vibes to Sigma Palace Stage 1 from Mega Man X1, and I love that. The theme only furthers that. The Ark stages in their entirety are all going to be just amalgamations of things we've seen from previous stages. So like, for example, we got our mech suit here from Crash's stage, as well as enemies that were seen in Crash's stage as well. Overall, this part of the stage is pretty easy. The enemy placements are super tame, nothing too difficult to work with. This part of the stage is really just meant to go along with the theme and just build up hype, and I gotta say, it does a terrific job at that. Here's Clone Array in action, by the way. Again, double damage, so I just make quick work of the tankiest enemy type in the game. Shortly after being forced to ditch the mech, you're gonna find yourself heading directly into the Ark. Time to take the fight to the enemy. Once you enter the Ark, the stage is going to become very reminiscent of Cable's stage. However, there's going to be some of Ray's laser traps scattered across the stage as well. This is where things are going to start getting a little bit more tricky, because now we've got to worry about not only Ray's laser traps, but also Cable's little electrifiable surfaces. And this is only the beginning, too. The Ark is going to be testing our knowledge of all of the level design across every stage we've played thus far, so you're going to be seeing the return of a lot of familiar traps and obstacles. At points, you're even going to have to deal with multiple traps and obstacles at the same time, like right here. Once you get past that rehash of Cable stage, you're going to come to a part of the Ark that's actually a little bit more original. We've got to do a bunch of hook shot swinging over this huge bottomless pit, with these floating platforms scattered about. However, Cable's little laser traps are going to be scattered about here and there as well, so you got to be careful of them. They activate very frequently this time around too, especially right here. These in particular tend to get me quite often. Once you get past this area, you're going to come to what I believe is our first checkpoint for this stage. After that, the stage is going to go back to being very reminiscent to that of Cable stage. However, the giant fans that were found in Blade stage are going to be thrown around here and there as well. And on top of that, we're still going to have to be dealing with Ray's optic lasers as well. Here they are, in fact. So never a dull moment here. plenty and plenty of obstacles to keep you on your toes. Coming up next, we've got a lot more of those fans from Blade Stage, but with Ray's optic lasers mixed in as well. We're going to have some vertical level design for a bit here, and the giant fans are going to be our main way of progressing. However, the hookshot is also going to be quite helpful as well. I can recommend equipping Air Jumper for this part of the level if you haven't already, seeing as that's going to be quite helpful too. Once you reach the end of this segment, you're going to come up to a branching path. Going left will lead to a health pickup and some money if you need it. Going right will lead to a checkpoint and the rest of the level. After passing this checkpoint, the level is going to go back to being similar to Cable Stage, but this time, the fans from Blade Stage are going to be all over the ceiling, which is going to make it harder for us to jump. If you have Air Jumper equipped, that's going to be your best friend, seeing as these fans are going to try to push you into the spikes. After reaching the end of this area, you're going to want to drop down and continue heading right, but before that, if you go left by swinging with your hookshot, you're going to find 3 containers full of money, especially the middle one. Besides that, the final stretch of this level is a lot of hookshot swinging while also evading the types of electrical traps you would see in Cable Stage. So as you can see, a lot of familiarity with Arc Stage 1. However, this time they choose to up the ante by making all of the obstacles a lot harder to dodge. They also start throwing multiple obstacles from different stages at you at the same time, making things even tougher. And personally speaking, I like this. It's a good way to test your skills as well as everything you've learned over the course of your playthrough. And now that we've reached the end of this level, I'm going to of course recommend that you fully heal yourself before challenging the boss. Trust me, you might need it.
Scrap! That fool must have already gone further inside the Ark. Ah, seems like you already caught up to me, Gravity Circuit. Do tell, how's that body of yours treating you? This body? What do you mean? Overwhelming strength, incredible speed, amazing abilities? It all makes you feel truly invincible, doesn't it? And yet, even with all that power, your memory banks ring empty. It's a shame, really, having such potential but not knowing where it came from. Let alone how it actually works. What are you getting at? I'll show you. It is time you learn the truth. Does my appearance surprise you? What? Who are you? What are you? It's simple. I am the original Gravity Circuit. Or more accurately, one of its previous hosts. Hosts? You mean there are others? There were others, but unfortunately, they're all long gone now. You don't mean... They've met unfortunate fates, yes. That circuit on your forehead, it's not like the others. Where the others are passive after their host perishes, yours has desires. It actively tries to seek a host body, so to ensure someone is always wielding it. And the way it accomplishes this is where its namesake comes from. With the power of gravity, it can attract the required materials for a new host. Loose parts, various scrap, raw ore, remnants of your foes. It doesn't matter where those materials come from. Sometimes, it might even claim the body of a nearby bot altogether. In the circuit's programming, it's all fair game. So then, what happened years ago was... Back then, at the end of the first Virus Army conflict, this body of mine was in a pretty banged up shape, barely functional. However, instead of destructing, this body ran out of juice to keep going. Without any power to send the copy command, the circuit thought I was already gone. If that command doesn't run, the circuit won't carry any memories of its previous host. That's ultimately what trapped me into this body. Learned that the hard way. And that's when I came into the picture. Yes, you were just an ordinary bot who picked an opportune time to show up. Or that's what I would like to say, anyway. But I don't know how many hosts you have been through. Or what you were doing before the virus army showed up, for that matter. I don't know. By the time I knew what was happening, I was already fighting the virus army. Then, it must have been his signal that reawakened us both. His signal? Who are you talking about? There is a great enemy lurking ahead, stronger than anything you have faced. The very source of the virus army. His signal has the power to control it in its entirety. Thankfully, same said signal can also awaken us circuits, should we need it. So I was roaming the wilderness mindlessly, until he sent out the virus army? Precisely. His power should not be underestimated. As the original gravity circuit, it is my duty to ensure you are up to the task. So, show me you are worthy, other me.
Get ready for my favorite boss fight in the game. As the original gravity circuit, what we've got here is basically a mirror match with ourselves. Nega is armed with basically the exact same move pool as ourselves, including his own tricks that are unique to himself. For example, every now and then he'll grab a piece of the ground and toss it at you. If you're quick with your hook shot, however, you can grab it and toss it back at him. Just be ready, because if he's not in the middle of doing something, he'll likely catch it and toss it back at you, causing you to have a little bit of back and forth, playing a bit of fetch, so to speak. In addition, he's also armed with his own hook shot, so you gotta keep an eye out for that, because every now and then he will go for a ranged hit. When initiating Phase 2, he's going to equip Power Extender, Speed Basher, and Chain Dasher instead of using a burst technique. He will always only ever equip these 3 upgrades, he will never equip anything else. For Phase 2, he's going to move a bit quicker and fight a bit more aggressively. He's also going to follow up his slide with 1 additional slide, so you gotta keep an eye out for that. Nega does not have any sort of set pattern or predictable AI. My strategy for him is to just simply keep my distance, let him do his thing while also observing his movements and reacting accordingly. It's a cautious strategy, but with enough back and forth, eventually he's defeated. Or is he? That's right, Nega has a Phase 3. He is tied with the final boss as being the only one in the game to have this. For Phase 3, he's going to be moving even faster and fighting even more aggressively. He is not going down without a fight. In addition, this is also when he's going to start using his burst techniques. His 3 burst techniques, technically 4, are Flying Strike, Rising Upper, and Heavenly Pile Drive. In addition, he can also use Catch Interrupt, however, the game will not notify you when he does this. He's going to try to catch you off guard with that. He also loves to spam his burst techniques. He will usually do it in the order of Flying Strike, Rising Upper, and then he'll try to usually get close to you and follow up with Heavenly Pile Drive. Sometimes he won't, sometimes he will. My strategy for Phase 3 is still very much the same. I keep my distance, let him do his thing, react accordingly, and hit him once or twice in between dodges. Dodge Slider is also your best friend for avoiding his burst techniques. I highly recommend using that for this fight.
Ha! Good. Very good. You truly have surpassed me. I think you are ready to face him. But first, I think it may be best for you to head back to the HQ for now. And what about you? Heh, don't you worry about me. This body might be all banged up, but it's nothing I can't recover from. Now, you go on ahead. I'll catch up to you later. Very well. Don't do anything stupid by yourself. Heh, better you worry about your own paint, Gravity Circuit.
And that was my favorite boss fight in the game. In addition to that being my favorite boss fight, another thing I would like to add is that Nega's battle theme is tied with the theme of Arc Stage 2 as my favorite song in the game. In case you'd like to give it a listen, Nega's battle theme is called Legacy. Welcome back, Master Kai, sir. How did it go? Did you find Colonel?
Unfortunately, no. He has already gone further inside the Ark.
Oh, just what is he doing?
I don't know, but I hope I can reach him in time.
Alright. Let me know when you are ready to go again. Master Kai, sir. We'll be doing just that very shortly, Pat. But first, there's an NPC who has something to say about Colonel that I would like to show you guys. Oh, what has gotten into Colonel? Like, sure, he always acted a bit weird. But this... I thought we could trust his leadership. Was my trust misplaced? I just wanted to show you guys that so that you could see a bit of what some of the NPCs are thinking about what's happened with Colonel. Now then, not wanting to waste any more time, it's time to head over to Arc Stage 2. I hope you still got some snacks left over, because this is actually the longest stage in the game. This is where you managed to reach last time, Master Kai. I've never been inside the Ark, so I don't know what actually lies in there. But based on our scans, there are still a lot of Virus Army soldiers in there. There just doesn't seem to be an end to these guys.
Don't worry, Pat. I'm sure we can end this conflict soon.
I hope so, Master Kai, sir. Just be careful out there, okay? Transfer to this location? Roger! Prepare for transfer! The achievement for Arc Stage 2 is to clear the boss fight from start to finish without any retries. Starting off on the other side of the door where we left Nega, Arc Stage 2 is going to start off looking very reminiscent to Arc Stage 1. However, after seeing that we have nowhere to go but down, we're going to find ourselves in an area that looks very reminiscent to that of Ray's stage. And that makes sense, since this part of the Ark is a factory. This is where he creates all of his Virus Army soldiers. Though this stage takes a lot from Ray's stage, we're also going to be seeing some aspects of Crash's stage as well as Trace's. For example, we've got the conveyor belts already from Crash's stage, as well as the falling junk from Trace's stage. Just like with the previous stage, Arc Stage 2 is going to be throwing these obstacles at us at the same time. For example, the conveyor belts here are going to try to drop us into the lava, so we gotta watch out for that. A more original aspect of this stage is that there's going to be these vertical-shaped platforms hovering over bottomless pits. If you've played Mega Man X2 or X6, these will look very familiar to you. They essentially serve the exact same purpose. Now, real quick, there's something I want to talk about that has to do with my gameplay. You may be noticing already, if not you will see it in a second, that I am just zooming through this level. If you're wondering why that is, simply put, it's because of the stage's theme. This is my favorite stage theme in the game, and I get so hype whenever I play this stage, or just hear the theme even. It's just, oh my goodness. It's tied with Nega's battle theme as my favorite song in the game. But it is my favorite stage theme in the game overall, topping even Cable's. And so because of that, I was a little too hyped while recording this to slow down a bit like I normally do for my recordings. So I hope you guys are able to keep up with the gameplay. I'll be talking a little bit more about this stage theme later, but for now, you're going to want to take it slow for this part of the stage, and then at the very end, you're going to want to swing across the ceiling with your hook shots. Once you reach this conveyor belt at the bottom, you're going to want to slide like a madman until you get to safety, so that way you don't get hit by that shockwave, I guess we'll call it, even though it's more of a wave of magma. From this point forward, most of the stage is going to be a straight shot towards the boss. However, the obstacles are going to start becoming a little bit trickier to deal with. For example, once we pass this checkpoint here, we've got the return of the dreaded goop dispensers from Trace's stage. These things are probably going to be the most annoying obstacle to deal with from here on out, because you're going to see soon enough that they are going to be put in some rather inconvenient spots for us. On top of that, we're also going to have to start doing quite a bit of careful platforming with these vertical platforms, all while also dealing with enemies or goop dispensers that are, once again, put in some rather inconvenient spots. Due to how precise a lot of the platforming is going to be getting because of those vertical platforms, Air Jumper is once again going to be your best friend in making sure that you do not either fall into the magma or any spikes. Yet another reason why I feel as though it's one of the best upgrades in the game. When dealing with the goop dispensers that are placed over pits of magma, I recommend taking a minute to slow down and observe their timings, because it's different for a lot of them. Some goop dispensers will take their time, while others are rather quick. Thankfully, the goop dispensers that are placed over conveyor belts are a non-issue, because you can use your invincibility frames from Dodge Slider to go right through them without any consequences. It's mainly the ones that are placed over pits of magma you need to jump over that you really need to look out for. Now, real quick, I want to go silent for my favorite part of this stage's theme to give you guys an opportunity to admire it as much as I do. Oh my goodness, this theme is so good! It does such a fantastic job at building up the hype for this game's finale. If by any chance you want to check out this theme for yourself, the name of the theme for Arc Stage 2 is A True Hero Emerges. A very fitting follow-up thing to use, if you ask me, considering everything that happened earlier with Nega. For the finale of this stage, we're gonna run into a series of destructible walls. You want to be careful here, because destroying these walls will also take out some of the floor beneath you, specifically right here, so be mindful of that. After that, you're going to have a fire sweeper and a projectile dispenser standing between you and the boss door. For the projectile dispenser, just rush over to it and make instant work of it with current arc. After that, it's time for our boss fight. Before challenging the boss, I not only highly recommend that you fully heal yourself, but I also recommend that you unequip something like Frame Amplifier for Nullifying Layer to reduce your damage taken. Trust me, you're gonna need it.
Colonel, wait! Scrap! I was too late.
Warning, warning. Intruder detected. Engage circuit extraction protocol. Target gravity circuit.
Guess I'll have to take care of you first.
Meet the Circuit Crystal. This thing is going to be providing us our mandatory boss rush that's needed for this style of game. Its default ability is pretty easy to deal with, especially if you have Dodge Slider. It's just going to be firing projectiles all over the place and occasionally firing them while targeting you. As far as I know, the Circuit Crystal does not have any type of invincibility frame, so you can actually use something like Clone Array or Current Arc to make instant work of its health bar if you want. I won't be doing that, however, because I want to show off everything that this thing is able to do. After depleting its health bar, it's going to fully heal itself and copy the abilities of a fallen circuit. It will always choose a circuit's ability at random. When it copies Trace's abilities, my strategy for dealing with the Circuit Crystal is to stay directly beneath it and hit it with a few aerial kicks. After doing this enough time, it's going to use its burst technique, Circuit Simulation. And this is where the real boss rush begins. Now, considering we've seen everything these guys can do on normal mode, I've decided to mix things up by showing you what these guys can be like on hard mode. For starters, we have Trace. Like all of the other circuits in this boss rush, Trace is going to be immediately starting off with her Phase 2 pattern. On hard mode, Trace moves quite a bit faster and summons enemies quite a bit more often as well. On top of that, the enemies she summons take an extra hit or two to take down, because that's just how hard mode works. Another thing hard mode does is that it makes the circuits a little bit more willing to use their special attacks more often, so you're going to see Trace using her special attack quite a bit more than she did back in episode 1. Additional things that hard mode does is that it makes her shoot quite a few more spikes when in the air, and she also tosses 3 potions instead of 2, making it even easier for her to limit your movements and overwhelm you. If I'm going to be honest, going after Trace first on hard mode can be kind of rough due to having virtually no upgrades to counter all of the stuff she's going to be throwing at you. However, despite this, I still think it's worth going after her first, considering beating her will get you Emergency Heal and Hardware Barrier, which are both very nice to have early on in hard mode. After clearing Circuit Simulation, you'll be brought back to the real world, where the Circuit Crystal will then drop a large health pack for you to heal yourself if you need it. When the Circuit Crystal copies the abilities of Crash, my strategy is to slide underneath it when it jumps and then hit it with a double aerial kick when it lands. Once you deplete its health bar, it's once again going to use Circuit Simulation, where it's then going to send you to fight Crash. Something I'm going to show you here is that if you defeated Hash before fighting Crash, you can use Clone Array to deal with Crash's special attack here. I don't think this is as effective as using Speed Basher, but it's an option you can use if you want. The 2 main differences for Crash on hard mode is that he drops a lot more debris when he jumps around. The other is that he also brings down those orange things from the ceiling a lot more often as well. This makes his hard mode fight quite chaotic, considering there's so much stuff you need to look out for that's going to be falling from the ceiling. Despite that, however, my strategies for him still very much remain the same. You can either choose to keep your distance from him and get a couple of pot shots in here and there, or you can use Dodge Slider to slide underneath him whenever he jumps and hit him in between jumps. I personally don't think either strategy is better than the other, so go ahead and just stick to whichever one works best for you. One final thing I can mention is that you can toss some of the falling debris back at Crash to deal a good chunk of damage. I think this is a little bit on the risky side though, considering you don't know what he's going to be doing and it could leave you open to an attack. When the Circuit Crystal copies the abilities of Blade, you can either run around like I am here, or you can choose to stay in place and just simply spam an upward aerial kick. The latter strategy is probably safer, but it's up to you. Either way, my recommended way of damaging the Circuit Crystal here is to toss the ice shards back at it. Here you're going to see my new preferred method to avoid Blade's special attack. For some reason, Blade's special attack prevents you from grabbing onto the ledge here. However, you're still able to hold on to that ledge for a split second before sliding down it as if it were a wall. As long as you keep yourself at least partially on screen, you'll be able to use this to completely avoid all damage without also falling off screen. On hard mode, Blade moves a little bit faster, but most notably, he shoots a lot more ice shards at you. This also includes when he drops them on the ground as well. This does work as a double-edged sword for him, since this gives you more ammo to toss at him. However, I have had instances where he's dropped a ton of them on the floor, which has led to me being quite overwhelmed. If he starts doing this to you and you find that it's limiting your movements across the arena, I recommend, rather than tossing the ice shards at him, to just destroy a few of them with your normal attacks to give you a bit more room to work with. Besides those factors, Blade will not feel too different from how he does on normal mode. Next up, we have Medley. The Circuit Crystal is going to float in the air for a bit and shoot 3 musical notes at you. After that, it's going to jump down onto the ground and create one of the shockwaves that Medley is so well known for. I like to match my timing to when it fires those musical notes by hitting it with 3 upward aerial kicks. After that, I wait for it to crash down onto the ground and react accordingly. My new and improved way for dealing with Medley's special attack is to go somewhat in the middle of the arena just like her, and then I immediately run to the nearest spring and jump off of it and hug the wall, kind of like what I mentioned back in episode 2. Medley can be a little bit on the annoying side on hard mode due to one major factor. The number of speakers she summons has been doubled from 2 to 4. This can be very annoying to deal with if she ends up following that move up with itself, because at that point what you've got to deal with is 8 speakers on screen at once. If that happens, you're likely in one of 2 situations. You're either trapped in a certain part of the arena until all those speakers are gone, or you're going to take some unavoidable damage. The only other difference with her on hard mode is that she spins around the room 3 times instead of twice. When copying Hash's powers, the Circuit Crystal is going to be firing projectiles in a sort of circular pattern. This circular pattern will either have the projectiles move to the left or to the right. My preferred method for this is to keep my distance from it and play it safe by hitting it only with my hook shot. Now, unlike normal mode, I think Hash is actually the most difficult circuit on hard mode. His special attack is slightly faster, but still relatively the same. What makes Crash so difficult on hard mode in my opinion is the fact that his movement speed seems to be roughly doubled. On top of that, he spawns way more holograms of himself than he does on normal mode. Combine that with a bit more projectile spam and Hash ends up becoming a boss who's really good at overwhelming you. If you play hard mode, I highly recommend you defeat Bit before fighting Hash. The reason for this is because by beating Bit, you'll get Screen Interrupt. Screen Interrupt is going to be your best friend for those moments where Hash has way too many copies of himself on screen at once. On top of that, if Hash is moving around a lot to make himself harder to hit like he is for me here, Screen Interrupt is a good way to stun him to leave him open to a bit of damage, or even another burst attack if you're quick. Next up we have Cable. My strategy for this version of the Circuit Crystal is the same as with Crash. Slide underneath it when it jumps, and then when it lands, hit it with a double aerial kick. The only thing you need to be mindful of is the projectiles it fires, specifically the first one. Since it travels a little bit slower than you would think, you can end up getting yourself hit by it if you jump too early. Cable's special attack on hard mode seems to be roughly the same, although I think it may be just a tad bit faster. Once again, you saw his good pattern there, but towards the end of this fight, you'll actually see what his other pattern is like. On hard mode, Cable is quite a bit more aggressive, trying very hard to get very much in your face. In addition, he does not mind spamming his special attack more often either. The most notable thing that Cable likes to do way more often on hard mode is call in 2 lasers from the ceiling. Sometimes he'll even immediately follow this up by doing it a second time. Another difference is that he fires a couple of more projectiles from his baton rather than just a handful like he did on normal mode. My strategy for him is still exactly the same, with a bigger emphasis on not letting him corner me due to all the extra things he can do. Here's what the other pattern for his special attack looks like, by the way. Once again, you really want to pay attention to the ceiling when he uses his special attack, because you don't know which pattern he's going to be using, and he will catch you off guard if you don't know which one it is ahead of time. When copying Ray's powers, my strategy for the Crystal Circuit is the same as with Hash. Once again, I like to keep my distance and hit it with the hookshot exclusively. However, seeing as the beams it fires will only ever fire in the same exact pattern every single time, it is a bit safer to go in for some melee hits, so you can do that if you want. The first difference we're going to see when fighting Ray on hard mode is that he fires Burning Laser 3 times instead of twice. My method for dodging it is still exactly the same, however. I still fight Ray the same way I would on normal mode, however on hard mode I fight him a little bit more cautiously. The reason for this is because Ray moves quite a bit faster on hard mode. On top of that, his attacks come out a bit faster as well, so you have less time to react to them. His AI is quite a bit more aggressive on hard mode too, so like Cable, he's going to be making more of an effort to get up in your face. Staying just out of range of his attacks is a little bit harder now because that fireball scattershot attack he does fires way more fireballs now, which actually does now put you in range of it if you try to stay as close as you would on normal mode. And lastly, his mirror beam attack comes out a bit faster now as well, so you still want to keep just far away enough from him so that you're ready for that attack the moment it comes out. Finally, we have my boy Bit. The Circuit Crystal is a complete cakewalk to deal with, considering the only crescent projectile you need to worry about are the ones that travel along the ground. I like to damage it in between attacks, considering it can't fire a second crescent projectile until the first one flies off screen. Oh boy, I've been looking forward to showing you guys Bit on hard mode. Gotta save the best for last, am I right? So for starters, Bit's special attack along with all of his movements are a lot faster on hard mode, so you're going to need quite the reaction speed to be able to keep up with him. The move where he points up in the air before shooting 3 crescent projectiles is still the same, albeit just slightly faster. The biggest difference with Bit on hard mode is that when it comes to this attack where he slashes across the ground, he will follow it up with itself a random number of times. For example, here you see him using it a total of 9 times. And when it comes to his drop down attack, he'll usually use it 3 times, though sometimes he'll only use it twice. He still has a little bit of end lag at the end of his dash attack, so you can use the hookshot to deal a free hit on him if you're quick. Otherwise, you can just use catch interrupt to bring the attack to an instant end. And that, my friends, is the boss rush, as well as a taste of what the bosses are like on hard mode. Maybe now you can also see where the challenge comes from beating the boss of Arc Stage 2 in a single try. Thankfully, however, getting the achievement for Arc Stage 2 isn't as hard as you might think. After all, Nullifying Layer will be mitigating a lot of the damage that you'll be taking. On top of that, the Circuit Crystal drops large health packs whenever you defeat a circuit. And if that's still not easy enough for you, you can go into this boss rush with Hardware Barrier, which makes things even easier. So like I said, it might not be as difficult as you might think. Now let's switch back to normal mode and return to base. Welcome back, Master Kai, sir. Any luck with finding Colonel this time?
I saw him, but unfortunately, he managed to slip away.
Oh, this is all so stressful.
Wait, something is coming.
An earthquake? What's happening?
The Ark. Something must have activated there.
If it can shake the ground all the way here, it must be something huge.
I'll go take care of it.
Oh, of course, Master Kai. Just let me know when you are ready. Unfortunately, Pat, we won't be doing that until the next episode. Before ending things off, however, there's something really important we need to take care of. Now that we have finally finished Arc Stage 2, we can talk to Data here and finally, at long last, get his data chip.
That earthquake confirmed my worst fears. The Ark most certainly holds a secret, something much older than most of us. Just what could it be?
And there it is, the final missable data chip. As we have Alf here decipher these data chips for us, I can now proudly confirm that you are essentially guaranteed to have every data chip in the game from this point forward. And that's because there are only 4 data chips left in the game. The 2 remaining boss data chips will be dropped by the 2 remaining bosses left in the game. And the final 2 character data chips will be given to you upon beating the game and returning back to Guardian Core HQ. So like I said at the end of the last episode, they're only missable if you go out of your way to avoid them. And so with that said, if you've been using this playthrough as a guide to find all of the data chips, congratulations, enjoy your achievement. And while you're at it, give yourself a pat on the back, you deserve it. So now that we've gotten all of that stuff taken care of, that's gonna do it for this episode. Next time on Gravity Circuit, it's gonna be the finale. So get ready and get hyped. And I'll see you guys then.